How many period products do you think the average woman uses in a lifetime? Take a guess. The answer? 11,000. That's a lot of money and a lot of waste. Now, how many do you think I use in a year? Go on, guess. Just one. Okay, technically two, because I have two of them. And these two will last me for the next 5 years. I've already been using them for 5 years, so 10 years total. That is 5 more years of never worrying about running out of pads or tampons, and 5 more years of not having to factor in my period into my budget. The average woman spends over $6,000 on period products in a lifetime. That's a chunk of a down payment on a house, or a car, or a luxury vacation. But instead, we've been pushed into spending this money on disposable products that we've been told are the only option. This video is here to break the cycle, to introduce sustainable alternatives, to debunk myths, and to start an open conversation about periods. Because to be honest, menstruation should not be such a taboo topic. The way girls learn about menstruation shapes their attitudes towards their bodies and sexuality. During their teenage years, physical and social changes can make them feel self-conscious or even objectified. Being able to understand and manage their own menstruation helps young women gain a sense of control and confidence. I remember being in junior high and even high school asking my friends for pencils and paper when I really needed tampons and pads. Looking back, I can't believe I was so self-conscious about something as natural as sweating. Is sweating a taboo topic? No. So menstruation shouldn't be either. So let's talk about it. First, the stats. Given that the global population is roughly half women, that means that roughly half the world's population has, will, or currently menstruates. And as discussed previously, the average person who menstruates will use roughly 10 to 11,000 products in a lifetime, equating to about $6,000. That's about 240 products per year, costing anywhere from $100 to $130 annually. So first, let's talk about the social impact of this. The cost of menstrual products has sparked conversations on social media amongst organizations such as universities and on a political scale, with the Government of Canada recently implementing a program in 2023 that provides free products in federal workspaces. Although most people do not work for the government, but this is at least some step in the right direction. The conversation typically surrounds the debate of whether or not period products should be free. Some places do offer free period products in public washrooms and public areas. Within Edmonton, locations such as the University of Alberta and various city locations such as recreational centers. However, even with the added access, a lot of people still struggle financially, sometimes even having to choose between buying period products or putting food on the table. According to the World Bank, approximately 500 million people worldwide don't have proper access to menstrual products or proper facilities for managing menstrual hygiene. And in many developing countries, access to menstrual products is limited, which can force individuals to use unsafe alternatives or miss school and work. In India, 24% of adolescent girls miss school during menstruation due to inadequate facilities. In these 5 African countries that were studied down below, it was found that menstruating individuals had to rely on various alternatives to manage their periods. Some of them did include commercial pads, but other alternatives included things like leaves, sand, and even goat skin. In South Sudan, 16.7% used disposable pads, while 43% in some areas used nothing at all. Cultural beliefs in some areas can also reinforce harmful stigmas, such as the idea that menstruating girls are unclean. However, even in developed countries, these issues of what is called period poverty persist. For example, a survey done by Plan International UK found that 36% of girls aged 14 to 21 in the UK faced difficulties accessing period products, specifically during the COVID-19 pandemic. Even here in Canada, a survey showed that around 35% of women and girls report having cut back on other expenses to afford menstrual hygiene products, whether on a regular or occasional basis. There are also a few health concerns associated with typical pads and tampons. There are studies that show that they do contain a number of harmful toxins. This particular study found, okay, let me read these. Phthalates, volatile organic compounds, parabens, environmental phenols, fragrance chemicals, dioxins, and dioxin-like compounds in menstrual products. And all of these chemicals are linked to reproductive issues, endocrine disruption, and other health-related problems. So there are some organizations like the Women's Voices for the Earth that advocate for safer menstrual care products and an increase in transparency from manufacturers. There is also the concern of toxic shock syndrome. It's a more rare but very serious complication of using things like tampons, especially the more absorbent kinds. Now I'll go into the environmental impacts. And just so you know, I'll be giving a lot of statistics here and throughout this whole presentation, to which the citations for everything will be coming up as I say them, as you might have noticed. And I will also have a section at the very end of this video with all my citations. So first of all, single-use period products are not biodegradable, and they're made up of around 90% plastic. And over 80% of the products are placed in landfills, where they take 500 to 800 years to break down. And in the US alone, period products contribute around 240,000 tons of waste into landfills every year. And in the UK, 2.5 million tampons and 1.4 million pads are flushed daily. Don't flush your pads and tampons. In areas where menstruation is highly stigmatized, a lot of this period waste can also be dumped into informal dumps or even rivers. Now imagine millions of people switching to a reusable product that lasts 10 years. The waste reduction would be enormous, but it does require all those million individuals to at least give it a try. So let's talk about menstrual cups. So some little tidbits first. They save you hundreds of dollars over time, considering one cup is $20 to $30 Canadian. They are chemical free and safer for your body. Make sure you're purchasing a medical grade silicone. And they come in a variety of shapes and sizes to suit your body's needs, because everybody's body is a little bit different. Cups are not the only sustainable reusable option. There are other options, such as reusable pads and even period underwear. However, this video will really only focus on period cups, as that's what I personally have experience using. I haven't explored underwear or pads yet, just because I'm so comfortable with this. So first, I wanted to mention this study actually. Just a little bit more environmental stuff before we move on. So a study comparing the environmental impact of various menstrual products found that menstrual cups have the lowest environmental footprint across all indicators and countries, with an impact of 99% lower than disposable, non-organic tampons. The study also found that menstrual underwear and reusable pads followed closely behind in terms of environmental benefits. And surprisingly, organic disposable pads had higher environmental impacts than non-organic ones. But all in all, the combination of menstrual cups with underwear was found to have the lowest impact overall. So, even combining a mixture of these reusable options could be the best combination. First, I just want to discuss who might have a slightly harder time getting used to period cups. Menstrual cups are amazing, but they may not work for everyone. So I just wanted to list a few things to consider. However, all of these can be remedied by, talking to a doctor. It's more just like your comfortability and willingness to explore it, even if it might be a little bit harder for you. First, if you have an IUD. So there was a study that found that 7 women did have their IUDs dislodged from using a period cup. However, it's a little bit of a weak correlation. However, there are cases of it happening. So in that case, it's important to talk to your provider. Another thing to consider is postpartum changes. You might need a different size, or maybe your flow is heavier, so this can lead to a little bit more trial and error. However, it is not advised that you use the cup for postnatal bleeding, and to wait at least 6 weeks and get doctor approval before using period cups again. The other thing would be if you have a dropped uterus or uterine prolapse, which may make insertion more difficult. Again, talking with a doctor and walking through the steps, the process of insertion might be helpful, or just, again, that trial and error. Okay, so we're getting off the research and statistics side, and I just wanted to talk about my own experience having used period cups for the last 5 years. So I started using period cups in 2020 when I first got into sustainability. At the time, I had been watching a lot of YouTubers that focused on things like zero waste and sustainability. And of course, they gave a lot of advice on how to be more sustainable in my everyday life. And a reoccurring topic was actually period cups. I knew what period cups were before watching these videos, but I was a victim of believing all the misinformation I had heard about them. So let me dispel some of those myths for you right now. Right now! 1, they're expensive. No, they're not. I mean, I guess to some people $20 or $30 can be expensive, but it's more of an upfront cost. But it is about $20 to $30, and it does last you 10 years. I only have the one period cup in this video because coincidentally, as I was filming this video, my period started. Anyways, 2, they're messy and they fall out. Honestly, not at all. In fact, personally, I never had this issue even during the learning curve, which I think is when, if it is going to happen, it usually happens while you're learning how to use it. Honestly, the trick is to make sure it's correctly suctioned inside, and you can test that by giving it a quick tug. If it moves a little bit, you haven't suctioned it correctly. If it's, you pull it a little bit and it's not budging, it's suctioned correctly. I think I've seen some cases online where somebody has experienced that, but it's usually during the learning curve. So yeah. And the last one is that they're just really hard to use. While yes, it does take some practice to get used to it, there's definitely a little bit of a learning curve. But after that learning curve, in my opinion, it's easier than having to use pads and tampons. It's more comfortable too. For me, it took about 2 cycles, so 2 months for me to get the hang of it. The first 2 were a bit difficult. After that learning curve, it is so comfortable. So some quick tips and troubleshooting from my personal experience. I know when I first started using them, I actually experienced a lot of cramping. I did discover that the position of the cup was a little bit it was like almost rubbing up against my cervix, I think. In that case, if you're feeling a lot of cramping more than usual, you might just need to reposition your cup. And for me, that helped immensely. So when you're inserting it, you do want to put it at more of like a back angle, not straight up and down, which I think is what I was doing. But once I started angling it this way instead of this way, the pain went away. If you're experiencing leaking, it could be a suction problem, or it could also be that your cup is too full, which is usually my case. Especially knowing which days are your heavier days. For me, for example, like my first 1 or 2 days is usually much heavier, so I do have to empty it more frequently. One more tip that I do have is for some period cups, they do have this little tail at the end just to make it easier to grab on for taking out or checking if it's secure. Sometimes it's a little bit longer than it needs to be for your specific body. So I recommend, if you're finding that the little tail at the end is a little bit too long, you can just cut it off to the length that works best for you. So I did cut the tip of it off mine to a length that worked best for me, so that I could still grab onto the cup, but it wasn't so long that I could feel it when I was sitting or something. So that's my last tip. Anyways, despite these minor challenges, I honestly would not trade my cup for anything. Because 1, it's way more comfortable for me. I honestly forget that I'm using it. There are some times that I go to bed at night and I forget that I have it in, and I suddenly have to remember, oh, I have to empty that before I go to bed. I honestly forget I am using it. In fact, when I switch back to like pads, I'm shocked at how uncomfortable they are. For me, I just really like the feeling that it makes me feel like I'm not on my period and I can do more, and I just really like that. Another huge benefit that I want to mention is the ease of traveling. But even last year, I went on a 3-month trip abroad, and all I had to pack was where's my other one? I'm missing it. This was all I had to pack for that trip, was these 2 cups. It was so easy compared to packing all these boxes or worrying about having to buy products in another country. And then, last but not least, it cuts out so much waste. Since becoming more environmentally aware, switching to using a reusable period product has honestly made me feel so satisfied. Every time I use this and think about all the waste I'm preventing from going into the landfill, actually really fills me with a deep sense of satisfaction. Not only was it a huge upgrade for me, but I also have the added satisfaction of it being really eco-friendly. Okay, so I've talked a lot about period cups up until this point. So how do you use them? Number 1 is wash your hands. Of course, you want to make sure you have clean hands when you are inserting something into your body. And then you want to wet the cup as well. You want it lubricated, either using lubrication or just using water. For me, I just use water. And then you want to fold the cup. So this part can be kind of difficult because different folds work for different people. There's folds like the C fold, which is like this. And then there's this fold, which is the one that I use, where you just push this down all the way into the middle, making this kind of U shape. And then I fold it a little bit more. I fold it more like that. And then I hold it like this. And then I insert it, and then it pops. But there are also various other folds. You can search it online for different fold methods. Those are the 2 most common ones, I think. And then after you let go of it, it should open like this. Sometimes in my personal case, I have to put my finger around the rim to get it to fully expand outwards. So sometimes it takes a little bit of fiddling. This also helps you check if the seal is fully formed, like if it's all the way around. And then give it a very gentle tug to check the seal to make sure. If it moves, then it's not fully sealed. If it's pretty firm, then you should be good. So you can wear, this is the other amazing thing about period cups, is you can wear them for up to 12 hours. So after 12 hours, you want to remove it. You can do this by pinching the bottom to release the seal and pull it out gently. Be careful because obviously it's going to be full. And then you just empty it into the toilet. And then you want to clean it again in the water, like tap water, before you reinsert it. Or if your period is done, that was your last use, you want to sterilize the cup in between cycles. So to do that, you should boil some water and put the period cup in to the boiling water for 3 to 5 minutes. Now, I'm not promoting specific brands, but I do encourage you to explore some options. So if you're interested in trying a period cup, here are a list of some brands that you might want to check out. And there are so many other companies aside from this that I really encourage you to look up and learn about and see what works for you. So, to wrap up, menstrual cups and other sustainable options to your period do exist. They're better for your wallet, they're better for your health, and they're better for the environment. There is a learning curve, but once you get past it, they are life-changing. I'm not saying cups are for everyone, but if you've never considered them before, why not give them a thought? Consider them now. Let's normalize talking about periods. Break the stigma, and make informed choices for our own bodies and our planet. And that's all. I hope you enjoyed. Bye.